Hey Nana, welcome and how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. So Nana, tell us what you do at Microsoft.
So I'm the engineering manager for PowerShell TSC.
Okay. We've heard Jeffrey Snow talking about CloudOS powered by PowerShell. So what does it mean? What is that vision?
The vision is, if you look at the recently announced Microsoft Azure stack, a lot of components would be using PowerShell at their core. For instance, similar to what we have done in CPS, a lot of configuration of the different internal components will, for example, happen using TSC. Configuration of the top of rack switches and the networking elements, for example, will happen using PowerShell and in some cases using OMI. And there is also Nano Server that's coming out, and management of Nano Server is driven using PowerShell, and Nano Server would get used in a lot of nodes within the stack. So that's what it sounds.
That sounds exciting. So that puts PowerShell team at the core of Microsoft's vision. So
PowerShell team, yes, has been in the core of Microsoft Server and CloudOcean for some time now.
Yeah. So how is it being on a product team like that?
It's really exciting, right? Because there are like new challenges that keep coming up. Right? When we first started PowerShell, it was all about like managing a single server. The next, it was all about managing multiple servers, and the next release, it was all about orchestration. And then moving forward, it's more around DSC and community-driven artifacts and things like that. And now it's taking it to the next level where we are trying to help in building something as big as the Azure stack. So it's exciting and fun. At the same time, you have a lot of responsibility riding on your shoulders. So,
yeah, that's true. You've been on the PowerShell team ever since PowerShell 1.0?
Yeah, ever since I joined Microsoft, I've been in the PowerShell team. I've been working in various areas.
Okay. So apart from DSC, I know you worked on workflows also. These are like your babies, right? But what is that one feature that you love most within PowerShell? Or what is that concept that you like the most in PowerShell?
Well, I actually like a lot of things in PowerShell. Obviously, everything that I've worked on, remoting, workflows, DSC. But there are also things beyond that that I like. If I were to pick one thing that I really love in PowerShell v5, that's classes. Right? The ability to write object-oriented code in PowerShell is something that I really love. I also like script commandlets, writing advanced functions in PowerShell. Basically, you can write a commandlet purely in PowerShell. Those are some more things that I like, and there are many more, but this is what comes to my mind right now.
So then that takes me to another question of on the classes specifically. When it was released initially, it was mentioned that it's only for writing class-based resources for DSC. What's the next step for that?
So whenever we release any feature, we have certain scenarios in mind. And classes, the idea was to make sure the goal is to make sure that DSC resources can be easily authored. Now, as an offshoot, there might be other scenarios that it would enable, but the one that we are focusing on, at least for this release, is to make sure that it is pretty easy to author DSC-based resources.
Okay. And now that you talked about what you love the most, tell us what you don't like in PowerShell, or what do you think needs improvement?
The one thing that I think seriously we need to improve is around error messages. We try to provide as much context as possible, but part of the problem is whenever you run into a production kind of a scenario, and you always find that there is some sort of context that is missing to troubleshoot a problem, or some sort of logging that's missing. So the one thing that we within the team we are actively looking on at this point in time, and this goes back to the challenges that we are talking about. We are being in the heart of the cloud and server strategy, and therefore that also puts a lot more responsibilities. Right, in something as big as the Azure stack, things can go wrong in a variety of ways. Then the question is, do we have enough information, context? Do we have enough diagnostics? And that's one of the areas that we are focusing on, and that's something that I would personally like to see getting drastically improved in PowerShell.
Sure, looking forward to that. On the DSC resources, the community-based ones, now that you've open sourced all of it in GitHub, for an enterprise customer, there is a trust factor that is missing there, right? Now, Microsoft is writing it. There are a bunch of community folks who are contributing to that, changes and different things. Now, how do you enable that trust within the enterprises when these are open sourced, and what is that you basically check? Let's say, as a resource contributor, if I contribute a resource, what does Microsoft really check in that to ensure that it's trustworthy?
So, the resources are an interesting aspect, right? One of the things that we're trying to do, and this should not be confused with, the support or the trust model. The ship vehicle should not be confused. Previously, the expectation was that everything will ship inbox as a downloadable package, and we are building this great gallery and PowerShell Get kind of tools to enable artifact sharing. And the idea is, moving forward, a lot of the artifacts would, even from Microsoft, would be shipped in the gallery, and then you use PowerShell Get to download them, so you always have the latest and greatest. Now, that is how we ship. So we may not be shipping something inbox, but that doesn't necessarily mean we may not be supporting it. So, how we will support it and how we will put a trust around it is a separate problem that we are working on in terms of addressing. So we might still have like a Microsoft-supported, Microsoft product team authored resource or other PowerShell artifacts available, but they may still be available in the gallery.
Okay. Would we maybe see in future some kind of a script analyzer policies around that to analyze whatever contributions that we do to GitHub in terms of whether it is secure, or can we find any things that we cannot trust within those resources?
We already do have script analyzer rules that run whenever we take in a pull request. So we have certain basic rules which is in terms of looking at style, content, etc., etc. And we also have script analyzer rules which look for certain practices within the scripts. And we also have like extra tests that we run. And one of the things we would like to enforce is there needs to be, if somebody is making a contribution, it should come in with tests. And we're also trying to go back into the resources that we already open sourced and trying to add tests to it. And these tests and script analyzer rules automatically run whenever we try to take in a pull request. And we are constantly evolving them as and when we author more rules. And once a module is published to the gallery, then we also run a separate set of rules within the gallery to make sure there isn't anything malicious that's being out there that can be potentially harmful.
Okay, thank you. So on the same topic, when we talk about DSA resources from product teams, for example, Hyper-V, most of this is written by private cloud teams, I think. But for some of these products, for example, the Azure Pack deployment resources that we have, etc., when do we see that, like PowerShell modules that are bundled with the installation of these products, when would we see DSA resources getting bundled that way?
As I said before, we are trying to separate the ship vehicle from the trusted certified model. So I do not have an answer yet as to when it will be available, but by the time they are available, they may still be available in the gallery, because that would be the central place where we have artifacts. Product teams are now getting engaged. Initially, they are also writing experimental versions, because this is a chicken and egg problem. You want more consumption of DSE out there in the marketplace before product teams start to heavily invest in it. So that conversation is happening, and product teams have started engaging. For example, the AD resources, in some sense, were validated by the AD team, even though they're experimental resources. And slowly we are getting there.
Cool. Thank you for the information. I mean, your input on that, Nana. So the last question here. You've come here to the PowerShell conference. This is the first time we did this conference in Asia. What is your experience from here?
Oh, it's actually been a fantastic experience, right? I have a personal connection with Asia. Here's where I grew up. Here's where I learned all the skills that helped me go to the PowerShell team and create PowerShell. So to me personally, it's payback time, right? Come here, help people, advance their skill set so they can better themselves in their career. So I have a personal connection, which is why I liked coming in here. But coming and seeing the excitement, the kind of momentum that people are trying to build, especially in an environment where it's a little different culturally on how things operate here. PowerShell is actually not caught up in a lot of enterprises in the Asia Pacific region. Now, given that Over has jumped into PowerShell, the kind of things that they are trying to do, it's really exciting, and I feel glad I'm here.
Cool. thank you for being here. It was great hearing you on DSE. This morning also the advanced concepts were really, really well received.
Thank you.
Final question, what is your input to people who are getting started with PowerShell?
So one of the things that to look at sometimes when people do get started, let's say they're starting from VB scripts, right? You have tons of scripts, and people will be like, okay, now let's start rewriting all of them in PowerShell. And we really don't propose that model, right? You start with PowerShell, and then you start writing whatever you do new. Start developing them with PowerShell, but you don't have to necessarily invest in a heavy project unless you find great rewards in terms of doing so. Start with something simple. Start playing around, put things into practice, and also start building if you are learning. But sometimes, we have this great community of PowerShell worldwide. There is Script Center, now we have the PowerShell gallery where artifacts are being shared. Try to reuse what others have, so that way, you can automate something new and contribute back to the community. So start consuming and start contributing.
So that's a great solution, Anand. Thank you for your time. It's great talking to you.
Thank you.